Tamamo no Me. Tamamo no Me, class name Caster, Kayasuda, is the caster class servant available to be chosen by Hakuno Kishinami in the Moon Cell Holy Grail War in Fate/Extra and Fate/Extra CCC. She is one of the servants of Ritsuka Fujimaru of the Grand Order's Conflicts of Fate/Grand Order. A woman of astonishing beauty that served as a courtesan for Emperor Toba toward the end of the Heian era, 79411185. She is publicly known as a Kitsune, lit. Fox, and is credited for catalyzing the downfall of the Shang dynasty, among other powerful regimes. In the Genpei Seisuki, she is associated with Takinaton, a tantric deity whose Japanese interpretation rode upon a fox. Her power is invoked in one of Teira no Kayamori's schemes for political influence. In the Nesuverse, Tamamo no Me is a soul originating directly from the sun goddess Amaterasu as a divided spirit and therefore a higher order of being than the earth spirit of myth. Her manifested form is actually a Yakan jackal, who suffers the fate of bearing cursory resemblance to a nine-tailed fox spirit. She is also frequently mistaken for an Uka no Matama, or one of the many fox spirit messengers under the employment of Inariukami. Regarding her background, she became curious about the lives of her worshippers, whose seemingly inconsequential lives were a source of fascination. Most perplexing was their devotion toward a deity with no name or shape. At first, she wanted to scold these creatures for their weakness, and enact divine retribution upon evildoers as was wont of the kin of a goddess. However, as she continued observing the human condition, she learned of their great capacity for perseverance. Able to smile in happiness despite the dark acts of their brethren or their frail stature, one generation could easily shrug off the regrets of the last and continue to love. Tamamo no Me soon desired to become a human so that she could experience these emotions. She then relinquished her divinity and memories to reincarnate, as a young human girl, in the old province of Izumo. Her childhood name while alive was Mizukum. As a child, she was said to be the human form of a white-faced, gold-furred nine-tailed fox. At the age of 18, she started serving the court of Emperor Toba, who had fallen in love with her at first sight. She became a court lady and called herself Tamamo no Me. She would be his lady-in-waiting under her current name and was his favorite, possessing great beauty and knowledge. However, her divine origins would eventually be her undoing. One morning, her head had sprouted fox ears. She managed to conceal them for a month. From there, the exact accounts vary, but what is clear is that she was exposed as a fox by an onmyuji. By her accounts, it was Abe no Saimai, who had been investigating the cause of Toba's mysterious illness. Whether or not Mizukum led the emperor on or their love was real is uncertain, and countless tales of the matter had differing answers. She fled from the inner sanctum of the imperial court. They sent hounds after her, and it was the first time in Japan that a fox had been hunted by hounds. She fled and cried in the fields of Nasu because she was hunted by those who claimed to love her. Foxes gathered around her, saying things like, "You have come a long way," and "What a rough journey you had." She wished the foxes to understand her feelings and hoped they would encourage her. It was then she realized who she truly was when the fox comforted her, stating, "Ah, what a fool I was." She was betrayed and hunted by the humans who feared her. She did nothing wrong, she only tried to help them prosper. She was forced to flee the village simply because she was not human. Her infamy grew at the plains of Nasu after fleeing from the court, where she met an 80,000-man army that was dispatched at the behest of the retired emperor to kill her. The soldier came screaming, "Kill the fox demon," and she tried to apologize to them but nobody listened. She fought back, yelling, "All right, let's do this," and killed everyone. During the second encounter against the force, she regretted her actions and tried to reason with them. It rained arrows for 3 straight days and night and nothing seemed to click with them. Standing in a hail of arrows covered in blood, she cried, "I was not trying to fool anyone. I'll leave now, so please just forget all about me." The assault continued from the humans who were filled with hatred, and she realized humans were fragile and their lives were precious. They were narrow-minded, filled with hatred and self-righteousness. She was wrong from the beginning, much like the humans in religion. Her perspective influenced her belief. Even though a goddess, she was a fool and she didn't realize her mistake until her final moments. No matter how much humans respect God, and through priesthood try to understand and be one of them, their efforts are wasted. There is no way for a human to become a god. Tamamo no Me died screaming when shot by an enchanted arrow. She was hunted and killed as an enemy of mankind. She doesn't want revenge because there are things that even a goddess can't do. She was killed trying to defend herself against an army of 80,000 soldiers sent by the emperor. Her corpse was said to have become the killing stone, Seshoseki, which released a problematic cursed poison that killed approaching people and animals until it was shattered by the monk Gennu Shinzo, Genno Shinsho, and its fragments dispersed to 3 places in Japan named Takata. Furthermore, the remnants that were scattered at that occasion became Osaki Kitsunes and Inakamis and said to have been turned into familiars by many magus from various places. She cannot be called a human-spawned heroic spirit as the facet of a goddess, but she willingly embraces the role in order to become a good wife. Accepting the limits inherent in the role of a servant, many of her original powers have been sealed away. Even before becoming a servant, she killed untold numbers of people, possibly holding the world record for murder. Appearance. Tamamo is a therianthrope being with the appearance of a human possessing fox characteristics such as the ears and tail. She doesn't mind being called a fox since she thinks they are cute, especially their fluffy ears. Tamamo has yellow eyes and long pink hair that she keeps tied up. She has a shape-shift, henge, localized as transformation, skill that allows her to borrow and change to appearances with other people. However, she does not feel like making much of using this skill due to a trauma of the past that resulted in her death. It is said that she is equivalent to China's 1,000-year-old Huli Jing, Korisei, lit. Fox Spirit. Daji is a Huli Jing from the Shang-Zhou revolutionary period, being well known within the Fengshen Yeni, Hashinenji Chinese novel. Daji also possesses this skill and the ability to somehow identify with Tamamo no Me. Assassin, whose origin is from China, identifies her to be Daji, calling her uncivilized and vicious fox. Blue witchcraft user's clothes, Aoiro no Jujitsu Fuku, is her standard outfit, and it is within these where she feels her most relaxed. She does not, however, feel that they are aggressive enough for modern standards. As seen in Fate/Extra CCC, when Tamamo was twice servant, she had a more mature appearance, choosing to wear her hair in a high ponytail with the same ribbon. The patterns at the ends of her sash reflect the number of tails she is missing, as they are seen to reduce in number as she gains tails in concept art for Fate/Grand Order. Jet black of magic clothes, Shikoku no Majitsu Fuku, is Tamamo's SNM bondage style and gothic Lolita dress fusion design in Fate/Extra CCC. Even though she puts up a front pretending to dislike her attire, she actually loves it. As long as it's cute, anything's okay. Spring-colored modern clothing, Haruiro no Gendai Fuku, is her casual clothing. In Takeuchi original design, she was in her human form. Sexy bikini, Sakusei bikini, is her bikini-type swimsuit. Mythological mystic code of the sun, Teo no Shinwa Raizo, is a costume identical to Amaterasu. Summer vacances, Sama Wakansu, is her swimsuit costume in Fate/EXTELLA. Beach flower, Bichi Furawa, is Tamamo's swimsuit form in Fate/Grand Order and her costume in Fate/EXTELLA Link. Personality. A beautiful half-human half-beast girl with fox ears and tail who always smile but has a wicked tongue. Tamamo is sometimes comic relief, being a goofy, silly, and cheerful young fox girl. It is better to say that her personality is light than cheerful. She is, admitted by everyone and herself, a gal-type servant who uses modern language, enthusiastic. Her cheerful personality at times is a brave face she puts on to hide her loneliness. Occasionally, she takes the battle and the situation each week of the game seriously. She doesn't think too much about the consequences of killing. Sometimes a variety of katakana and beyond understanding remarks pops out of her mouth, but the root is a freedom god realist. She is quite mean and wicked tongue, that some can even say, what an evil soul, lustful soul, how evil, etc. However, she acts completely opposite when it comes to master and servant relationship. She becomes infatuated easily and she can't help liking the person she serves. She devoted herself to Hakuno and stood with Hakuno until the very end. To stand by her master until their spirit transcends reincarnation is all she wishes for. She falls in love with Hakuno, placing herself in the role of their wife regardless of their gender. She doesn't need the Holy Grail as her wish is to be a devoted wife of Hakuno and expresses that the most important thing over anything else is love. Her affection towards love came from observing humans, stating it was strange that they were so happy in worshipping her personification of Amaterasu. Seeing so many people fawn over her, she wanted to do the same for someone else. Drawing from her own fate and the actions she took, she believes the intent of person is always important. She will only serve those whose intentions and actions are ultimately good. While stating she would be fine with serving anyone in general, Tamamo states the person would ultimately need to be good or have good intentions to obtain her service. It doesn't matter if they are male or female, child or adult, or even a saint or sinner, only their intentions matter. That is one principle she will never betray. Regardless of her notoriety, she wanted to serve someone with content. She likes to cook but not the actual food itself, she enjoys providing meals for her partner and watching them eat it. She also likes to receive presents from her partner but frowns upon cheap gifts. Tamamo is easily jealous, citing frustration over Hakuno's relationship with Rin/Rani and refusing to lose to them. She is often quite suggestive to Hakuno and can make some crude remarks. When angered or insulted, she can become quite harsh, throwing vile insults and threats to enemies who insult her and Hakuno. She was quite surprised with Rani's level of astrology that surpassed her and wished to meet her professor. It is said that Tamamo would get along with Arcuade Brunestad because they share the same basic origins. When Assassin calls Tamamo as Daji, Tamamo was offended by his statement. She calls Daji an evil, sadistic mongrel. There is a moment where Tamamo felt relatable to Vlad III, as someone who is also misconception as a monster. How you love too much, nobody can understand you anymore. And what people don't understand, they fear. She likes trips to hot spring resorts, but not hot spring baths, and love-filled cooking, at least while doing the cooking, and giving presents to herself. She hates dogs, only somewhat handsome guys, and people who disrupt her time alone with her master. She's not too fond of lovable 100% airhead characters. She seems to have well learned the lesson that her half-baked airhead act never seems to come out ahead of the real deal. Abilities. Tamamo no Mae is a soul that was created from the essence of the sun goddess Amaterasu, and as such, she is not a mere earth spirit, but an actual unique facet of the goddess from which she came. Her true form is that of a divine class spirit, and as such, it'd be a monumental mistake to classify her as one of the many human-spawned heroic spirits. However, she willingly embraced the role of a servant so that she could, in her own words, become a good wife. By deliberately accepting the limits inherent in that role, many of her original powers have been sealed away, putting her on the same level as other human heroic spirits. Tamamo is also an anti-hero, as she is considered one of Japan's three great monsters. It is said that a hero by the true name of Abe no Saimai defeated the white-faced nine-tailed fox in the past, although further detail is not given. Since the number of heroic spirits related to foxes is quite limited, Suzuka Guzan was able to successfully hypothesize Tamamo's true name. Tamamo states that having her true identity exposed to the enemy doesn't pose much risk for her. 9 tails. Supposing that we represent an A-rank servant with a numerical power level of 100, not including noble phantasms, Tamamo with 1 tail would have a 9% of its power. However, when the number of her tails increases and her spirit rank goes up to the highest level, it becomes impossible for humans to comprehend her full power. This is only natural, as the foundation of her being came from an offering to the sun. Thus, the scale of her existence is equivalent to it. For each tail that Tamamo grows back, her power is multiplied by 9, giving her 9-tailed form a power of 387,420,489, just like Amaterasu. Whereas she could never hope to defeat an A-rank servant with just 1 tail, as the number of tails increases, it becomes ridiculous to even compare the two. In fact, if Tamamo got serious, she'd become an evil spirit capable of easily beating 100 or more heroic spirits. Were she to transform into such a hideous monster, she would become a great demon strong enough to destroy 3,000 worlds. An avatar of the apocalypse itself and a threat great enough to rival the king of magecraft and his human incineration order. The White Titan Safar possesses a power level of 300 million in her 7th stage, which is comparable to that of the legendary Golden White Face's 9-tailed form. Altera has a bonus modifier against the world, so gods who embody the aspects of nature are at a disadvantage against her. Most gods' divinity comes from Earth, but the sun belongs to the universe. In terms of raw force, Tamamo states that she could be on par with Velber. However, Tamamo later stated twice that she was among the gods that were vanquished by Safar. When Safar was finally released in the moon cell, she stated that there is no way to stop Safar, and that she had known she wouldn't be able to save Hakuno Kishinami all along. As the embodiment of the sun, Tamamo knows everything that happened 14,000 years ago. Thus, she admitted having lost to the White Titan before, and that she knew in her very bones that they would be no match for the Umbral Star. Out of all the gods that fought Safar, none were able to bypass her magical energy absorption skill, which converts the magical energy of her opponent's attacks into fuel and energy for Safar's use. Only the Holy Sword and Zeus, after combining with the other Olympians, were powerful enough to defeat Safar. True name: Raw Power. Tamamo/Amaterasu, 9 tails, 387,420,489. Sifar, 7th stage, 300 million. Tamamo, 8 tails, 43,046,721. Tamamo, 7 tails, 4,782,969. Tamamo, 6 tails, 531,441. Tamamo, 5 tails, 59,049. Tamamo, 4 tails, 6,561. Tamamo, 3 tails, 729. A rank servant 100. Tamamo, 2 tails, 81. Tamamo, 1 tail, 9. As a servant, Tamamo no Me is usually summoned with just 1 tail. In Chaldea, even after reaching the limits of ascension in Grand Order, she will only return to a 3 tails form. During the CCC incident, in order to save Hakuno Kishinami from being deleted by the Moon Cell, Tamamo was forced to grow back all her 9 tails. By going through 1,000 years of sage training to level up, Tamamo was able to regain her past strength, conquering the Moon Cell in the process. In order to reach the Moon Cell core, one must first break through the time barrier, a 404 light-years space located between the 7 arenas and the core. BB had been able to achieve this by expanding the Sakura Labyrinth and moving through the imaginary number space at the speed of light to break through this perfectly spherical Spiritron defense wall that cuts through 8 dimensions. However, Tamamo was able to crush it effortlessly in an instant thanks to her 1,000 light-years dash, by ignoring the time axis, laws of cause and effect, consistency, and so on. After reaching the core, she simply kicked it, immediately shutting it down. The official name of the spinning kick she performed is called Flare Skirt Bunker Buster, an attack capable of causing extremely high pre-assure on underground constructs. Once she had saved her master, Tamamo traveled with Hakuno to a remote countryside on the edge of SE.RA.ph that even commercial males traveling at the speed of light can't reach. After doing so, she cut off her tails, which surprisingly do not only have tremendous power but can also act as independent heroic spirits. Hakuno calls them the Tamamo 9. For all these reasons, Tamamo is essentially a cheat character. The other characters to have ever been referred as such are Arcuade, BB, and Gilgamesh. Combat. Despite being such a great divine class spirit, at the start of the Moon Holy Grail War, Tamamo is the weakest servant in the entire game. With her paper-thin endurance and inability to use her noble phantasms, it's an easy game over if you let your guard down. Throughout a large part of the war, Tamamo could not access her full power. Due to Hakuno Kishinami's deficiencies as a pseudomagus, Tamamo was unable to manifest her full glory. Although all of her parameters are an extremely low E rank at the beginning, with Aoko's and Tuko Aozaki's help they gain a medium growth rate. By performing an alteration of the soul, Aoko was able to link Hakuno's and Tamamo's souls. Through Hakuno, they are able to modify Tamamo's magic circuits, so that as long as Hakuno increased her rank as a master, they would be able to strengthen their link by hacking into each soul and choosing what to improve. Sculpting their spiritual bodies maximizes the flow of magical energy from master to servant. However, due to being a caster, even at full power, Tamamo no Me lacks brute strength, and her physical attacks are not worthy of praise. This is especially true in her endurance, which is still ranked E. During the CCC incident, Tamamo's rival is Passion Lip. Under normal circumstances Tamamo is on the verge of death after taking a normal punch attack, so Passionlip's huge one-shot lip attack means that she is an instant death monster as far as Tamamo is concerned. The reason Lu Bu is known as Tamamo Killer is that he can kill Tamamo in one hit even if she guards. Being a caster, Tamamo's true strength are her curses. Due to being a specialist in cursing techniques, Tamamo was able to repel a fragment of King Protea's infantile regression. Some of these curses can be used to keep other servants under control by electrifying them with a lightning bolt. Elizabeth Bathory says she is able to endure them thanks to being a demi-dragon, and that she'd definitely be super dead otherwise. Elizabeth was able to train herself to be completely lightning-proof, to the point where Tamamo would need to hit her with 1,000,000 volts to actually injure her. This lightning curse returns in Fate/EXTELLA Link as one of her active skills in battle, called Curse, Thunderclap, Juso, Rai-Ti, and in the collaboration event between Fate/Extra CCC and Fate/Grand Order, Tamamo Cat utilized the skill Curse, Void Cleft Great Chaos Heaven, Juso, Kuretsu Dai Mitten, to lock Suzuka Guzen in place. Meltrilus recognized that it's caster Tamamo's final secret technique and was surprised that Cat could also use it. Tamamo's attack patterns are basically 2, 1, blows using her mirror, and 2, long-range attacks using curses. Since Tamamo isn't that resilient to damage, her blows with her mirror are mainly meant to keep her enemy in check. She needs to take some distance in order to make the best use of her curses. During Tamamo's first fight with Suzuka Guzan, Tamamo was weakened due to having low magical energy and Hakuno Kishinami having lost all his experience points. Since Tamamo is a caster and has E-rank endurance, fighting a saber such as Suzuka means that things will only get worse for her the closer her opponent gets. Although Tamamo's mirror can be used for both offense and defense, it isn't enough to shake off Suzuka's three-sword style. When Suzuka finally uses the Heavenly Demon Rain, Hakuno states that there's no way for Tamamo to dodge all of the projectiles and that all she can do is grit her teeth and bear the attack. However, considering her low endurance, she would die even if she used guard. Tamamo was able to block it by combining the two curses, Mantra Aphotic Cave, which lowers damage and absorbs MP from the enemy's skill, and Mantra Bestial Sky, which greatly increases magic ability for one turn. Although Kazuhito Sakagami tried to finish Tamamo off by boosting Suzuka's agility with a code cast, Hakuno reacted in time and used heal on Tamamo. With all of Tamamo's wounds healed and the Aphotic Cave still activated, Kazuhito orders Suzuka to withdraw. Although Tamamo's first battle with Suzuka Guzan proved that Tamamo can fight at close range with her to a certain degree, during their rematch, Suzuka is able to read Tamamo's moves thanks to her blessing of wisdom Noble Phantasm, which grants her the wisdom of a Bodhisattva. Suzuka is able to counter Tamamo's curse, Fiery Heaven with Water Kneading, an attack performed with Daishuren. However, since she is a saber, Tamamo states that such makeshift caster-like attacks can't match a true caster like herself. Although Tamamo tries to attack Suzuka again, Suzuka simply evades midair by using her floating swords as footholds, and breaks through Tamamo's guard with Guard Break. She's able to accurately attack every opening in Tamamo's defense, overwhelming her pretty rapidly. Although Suzuka is better at anticipating her enemy's moves, Tamamo is better at controlling the battlefield. Tamamo uses the recoil of Curse, Chaos Heaven to jump into the air and evade what would have been a fatal blow otherwise. Then, she uses her mirror as a foothold like Suzuka had done previously, and propels herself back at Suzuka, breaking through her guard. Tamamo states that had she been alone, she would have used Fiery Heaven and it would have been blocked and halved by Suzuka's guard. It was only thanks to Hakuno Kishinami that she was able to arrive to this solution. Before Tamamo can finish Suzuka off, Karna intervenes and sends Tamamo flying back with just a light touch of his hand, despite being extremely weakened under Janako Karajirai. During Tamamo's fight with Violet, Violet is not receiving magical energy from her master, however, she is still able to dodge Tamamo's Fiery Heaven and Chaos Heaven without much difficulty. Although Violet is able to freeze Tamamo's movements with her Crack Ice, giving her an opening to attack Tamamo, Tamamo didn't take fatal damage from her consecutive strikes, and could keep fighting thanks to Hakuno Kishinami using a healing code cast. Thanks to Tamamo's and Hakuno's coordination, Tamamo is able to block Violet's whips with Chaos Heaven. After Tamamo uses her mirror to pin them down, Tamamo kicks Violet and sends her flying several meters away. It is here revealed that Tamamo can use proficient close-quarters skills thanks to the muscle training she had gone through in the first 6 rounds of the previous Moon Holy Grail War, following the path to the Master Castration Fist required for smashing the harem route. The reason she had been keeping them hidden is that she wanted to maintain Hakuno's image of her as a frail lady. Violet says that having grasped Tamamo's reaction speed, she can now raise her speed so that Tamamo can't counter her attacks. Shinji Mato however warns Violet that fighting Tamamo in close quarters is a bad idea, and that she should still keep using the hit and run strategy. Tamamo can escape from the time paralysis by hiding out of Violet's view, but her attacks can easily be dodged in that position. Although Violet has superior parameters, Tamamo has greater battle experience. Since Violet's attacks are too simple, Tamamo is able to predict where she opens her wormholes, taking advantage of them to attack her. When Violet uses Crack Ice once again, Tamamo reflects it back with her mirror, freezing Violet in place. She then fires Curse, Frigid Heaven, Fiery Heaven, and Chaos Heaven, seemingly overpowering Violet. Before Tamamo can finish her off, however, Violet partially transforms into the Gorgon, gaining the upper hand. Tamamo then counters with her secret move, Land of Eternal Bane, which causes magic damage and a poison effect. For its activation, Tamamo's HP must be below 30%. This grants Tamamo the victory, as she claims that, the one who shows their trump card first loses. That little bit of wisdom decided this battle. Skills. Class skills. Territory creation, C rank. This skill allows one to create a special terrain that is advantageous to oneself as a magus. Unfortunately for Tamamo no Mae, her personality is ill-suited for the task of manipulating reality and she has great difficulty even creating a small-scale crafting studio for creating minor amulets and other types of low-level talismans. Divinity, a rank because she is a divided spirit of the divine spirit Amaterasu, Tamamo no Mae boasts top-rank divinity. After seals, the rank became this. Personal skills. Curse arts, EX rank caster uses is all physical phenomena performed with her own body. While common magecraft is a program that recomposes what exists around, curse arts is a program that recomposes the raw materials in one's own body. It is related to Dekinitan methods, Dekinitan Ho, and includes methods to discern one's time of death, secret arts to obtain influence, methods to attain status and fortune, for men, and methods to gain the favor of influential individuals, for women. Due to a number of very harsh lessons impressed upon her in the past, Tamamo no Mae no longer makes use of her still formidable skills in these areas. Cursed Layer, Broad Sunshine, a rank upgrade from Curse Arts. Tamamo is also capable of using the Cursed Boundary Layer, as she explained that it was a world turned inside out with hatred only to kill a target and he could not get out of it unless removing the cause. Shapeshift, a rank this refers to the abilities of either changing one's appearance or borrowing the physical form of another. As a kitsune, or fox spirit, Tamamo no Mae is able to alter her appearance and even species at will. However, due to a traumatizing event in a past incarnation that resulted in her death and temporary damnation, she rarely, if ever, uses this ability. Fox's Wedding, EX ranked the skill item construction that received various of her own peculiar tampering. She invented this skill after seeing the noble phantasm of a certain JK rival. Tenki Aim is MY specialty. By one-sidedly declaring a wedding, a sun shower of blessings is shed and souvenirs are pushed on ally-like individuals in congratulations. Truly a cheat skill that can only be described as Miko Fox. Please, restrain yourself, Amaterasu. Noble Phantasm. Tamamo no Mae's Noble Phantasm is her mirror called Eightfold Blessing of Amaterasu. This ability would allow Tamamo to counter Violet's Crack Ice, however, she chooses not use it against her in fear of revealing her true name to Hakuno Kishinami.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.